deck, right? But it has some control-like elements that you don't usually like to see. Things like Zoroark's Machinations, as well as the Eerie too. You're also playing cards like the Team Rocket's Watchtower to turn off the colorless Pokemon abilities. But of course, you can also play a little bit aggressive as well. I want to see Xander really kind of take advantage of kind of stopping a lot of Marco's acceleration with energy. Marco is playing 2 Janine's Secret Arts, and we've seen Zoroark really kind of go back to its roots of being a poison package attacker, but that ace spec, and I believe it was Ethan's pick at the earlier of the day, the Hero's Cape here. I want to see how exactly that one is going to play out, because there is 1 copy of the Penny in the list, so if we were to attach it to something like the Mega Absol EX here, we can actually use Penny and recycle the Hero's Cape and put it on something else.
Yeah, that's the one thing I kind of love about this version of Zoroark, that I really do think the Fernandez brothers popularized the split of Penny and Professor Turo scenario, just having that kind of versatility. Most of the time, your base, Pokemon that are going to be stuck in the active is going to be your basic Pokemon. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the prize cards here. Got a double Turbo Energize for Xander. There's only 2 in the list, and that is one of the main cards to go along with 2 Boss's Orders out of the 3. And of course, that 1 Mega Absol EX, meaning 1 left in the deck. Definitely some awkward prize cards for Xander there.
Yeah, I'm not liking that if I'm Xander either, right? Especially because we're not playing energy acceleration aside from the 2 technical machine turbo energizers. There's nothing like a Crispin or something like a Janine's Secret Art to really kind of help us get Absol set up. And the thing is, Claw of Darkness needs 3 energy to really kind of get us going here. We are going down to the table. We'll see what this match brings to us.
Xander starting off with that Mega Kangaskhan EX in the active. Always great with that run errand ability, and has an Earthen Vessel to go along with it. So you at least guarantee an energy attachment for the turn. Gonna get some at least bad news. Well, I guess it's not bad news anymore if you're going first, right? You're not gonna really be able to capitalize on that technical machine turbo energize.
I want to see how exactly Xander is going to set up the board here, just because I didn't get a glimpse of the hand, but I did get a glimpse of the deck, and I did see that Precious Trolley inside of the deck here, Pokegear, and an energy switch drawn. But oh my goodness, who needs Precious Trolley when you just have, I believe that's at least 3 basic Pokemon already in hand here. But there's the attachment return onto Mega Kangaskhan.
And Xander is opting to play the kind of list that we saw from Ryuki in Brisbane. So there's no Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX in the deck, which is one of the cards that is usually pretty good against a deck like Zoroark, if I'm not mistaken.
We'll see how exactly Xander's going to be able to play around everything. Marco, though, going on over into his side here, finding a buddy-buddy pop, and that's exactly what you want to see turn 1 as Zoroark here. This has really kind of become the setup deck, right? As long as we have at least a couple of Zoruas ready to go here, we can find our end Zoroark EXs later with something like our Cyrano to really kind of pluck them out of the deck. And Marco is playing 4 of those, Jeremy.
Oh yeah, you want to see those right away if you're Marco. It is able to not only grab you your draw engine and attacker in Zoroark EX, but you can also grab Petrant EX, Pheasantipity EX, Mega Absol EX to really just give yourself a good kind of game plan into a lot of decks, or just trying to draw and even thin out your deck.
I love the way that Cyrano has really become one of a staple card in a lot of decks, because the creativity that you can have with this card, Jeremy, we've seen it in something like an Eevee box, for example, where you're able to grab Pidgeot EX, a Flareon, and an Eevee. Really, you can like go into this deck and find a lot. You can grab Pheasantipity off of that as well. So in a deck like Zoroark EX, just makes the most amount of sense to play the max number of cards possible.
And there is probably the worst part about Cyrano when you're not evolving, is the Iono putting 3 Zoroark EX to the bottom of your deck. Hopefully finding maybe another supporter, but no, that hand's gonna be a little awkward. And there, Xander finds the Precious Trolley off the Iono. Who needs Arven? Because you could just draw it anyway.
The thing is, though, Jeremy, I mean, you look at the board, right, and we already have our 2 key pieces ready to go, right? We have the Mega Absol, and we have the Mega Kangaskhan as well. I think what's unfortunate here is I think Xander's going to realize that the 2 technical machine turbo energizes are in the prizes here, so we're just going to have to kind of slowly attach here and there and get both of our Pokemon ready to go. Now, granted, we do play a couple of copies of Energy Switch, so we will be able to essentially kind of pick the attacker that we really want to eventually go with, but with that Iono, I mean, Zoroark EX does need an Ends Pokemon to use Night Joker to copy. So far, not seeing too much here. We'll see if that Iono is going to stick Marco.
Well, there is the Artisan in hand, so that does double duty of finding that Ends Reshiram, along with shuffling those Ends Zoroark EX back into the deck from the bottom of that Iono. Now, run errand, drawing 2 cards. Xander finds Boss's Orders, and then I think that Latias EX, but you don't need Latias when you got Petrant and Yveltal. Such a great combination for this deck.
Said Artisan, but there is the draw for turn here, and Ends Reshiram actually just in hand here.
This sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's not great. I was just about to talk. The Artisan, and there it is. This little Cleffa here. This might be our actually only play, Jeremy, to try and at least unstick the hand where we can retreat and then use our Grasping Draw. We're going to go on ahead and get rid of as many cards in the hand as possible here, and then we're just going to Grasping Draw for 3. This is a big miss from Marco, but a great Iono play from Xander.
And now Cleffa's been one of those cards that's kind of been in and out of this Zoroark deck. Now, Marco opting for the Cleffa and Grasping Draw is a very great attack, but we've seen something like Badoo. We've just seen no 30 HP Pokemon in the deck, and where do you stand on it?
It's really hard to say, right? Because Monkey Dory is just that very definitive Pokemon that sometimes it feels like Cleffa becomes just a prize liability and it doesn't feel good to play. But in Marco's case, this is kind of the only line that he really has here. I do believe it is going to be the Arven that was found off of Pokegear for a turn here. And once again, I believe Xander is still looking for these 2 Technical Machine Turbo Energizes, which are still not available here. The slow attaches have been okay, though.
The thing that's awkward, too, is the other 2 tools in the deck are in Xander's hand, both Bravery Charms. So you see your opponent not grab any tool off this Arven, you're like, okay, well, maybe there's a good chance that we can play a little slower this game. No Turbo Energize for this Absol toolbox.
Has to actually go with the Earthen Vessel here, and definitely not the worst option, right? We're still able to find our 2 Dark Energy here, but the question is, where do we attach, right? Obviously, we want to get our Monkey Dories online, but as kind of Marco showed Xander from last turn, no Zoroarks, no Cyrano here to bring back the deck to some consistency here. So I want to see also where he's going to decide to put maybe some of those Bravery Charms as well, but it is going to be Pecharunt with its subjugating chains to bring Yveltal up to the front here, and it will be just a clutch. And now keeping this Cleffa in the active.
I actually kind of love this play. You keep the Cleffa in the active, 20 damage on it, but then you poison yourself. So next turn, you could attach a Dark Energy, Adrenabrain the damage over to the Cleffa, take the knockout, and then either clutch something else new in the active, or maybe you get an energy switch, energy combination to, well, I guess we need 2 energy switches to attack with something like the Mega Kangaskhan or the Absol. But pretty good looking start from Xander in spite of prizing both of those TMs. Feels
like Xander is kind of locked into just thinning the deck for this Monkey Dory. And we see a couple of EX Pokemon in hand, but none of the ones that we actually want here.
And Marco just actually benched a Monkey Dory from the Artisan, has the Dark Energy, so now it can kind of save the Cleffa, get the 2 damage off of it, put it on to something that's not the Yveltal, right? You don't want to put 30 damage to just take the knockout again, but leaving 1 damage on, what's he doing that for?
Yeah, he's leaving it on so he can, you know, can move damage counters still, but I mean, you brought the Monkey Dory into the active here, but I mean, Xander can still use Pecharunt EX's subjugating chains to get things going, and that's what we're going to see now. Would like to see, you know, an Adrenabrain here or there, but the boss's orders here onto the Monkey Dory into the active, there is a Darkness Energy that we were looking for.
Yeah, you never want to clutch the active to take the knockout on the Cleffa, so slowly damaging it with the 1 damage counter yet again, and then you have 40 on the active thanks to that weakness. Now this Monkey Dory cannot retreat, and did Marco finally grab? No, it's a Zoroark. I thought it was a Zoroark EX.
No, I feel like, Jeremy, Marco might be forced to Professor Turo this turn or something like that. I mean, free it up, but it will be the Zoroark's machinations here, where Xander now has to discard up until he has only 3 cards in his hand. So we'll see what he's going to prioritize here.
Zoroark Machinations as a supporter is never going to hit your opponent's best cards, right? They're going to keep the 3 best cards in their hand, but it is so powerful in combination with something like that Claw of Darkness from Mega Absol EX. Really can just, your opponent gets rid of a bunch of resources, then you take the best card out of their hand. But using it here just because you can't really do much anything else. We're going to Adrenabrain some damage over, and just like that, this Yveltal is slowing the game down for sure. No Zoroark EX in sight for Marco.
So Xander did draw into the Lively Stadium, which is usually the common stadium that we see inside of this deck. I know some decks have been kind of taking it out here, but not playing it down, saying, you know what, you can keep your Artisan here, because that Lively Stadium would actually probably help Marco more than Xander here, right? It would allow for all of these Aruas to keep, you know, the amount of damage that, or keep their health pretty high here. So Lily's Determination coming in. Xander hasn't taken a prize card yet, so we get 8 cards, Jeremy.
It's a lot of cards. Taking a look at the hand, Xander did find an energy switch, which could be nice. Is it enough to Claw of Darkness this turn? I'm not sure.
It's hard to say what the correct play is here, right? Because do we want to go aggressive and start taking prize cards when what we could do is start stacking up the damage around the board? But the moment that, you know, the essential bench lock is kind of gone here, we know that there's no, oh, there's one. I was about to say there's no Zoroark in play, but we're finally finding one here. Marco now can actually start getting some draw here, but this Monkey Dory is still stuck. Now, granted, he does have the Professor Turos in hand, but there's the Cyrano we've been missing, Jeremy.
Yeah, the second one of the game, but again, due to that Iono from Xander, all those Zoroark were put to the bottom of the deck. Now Marco has some time to actually get some trades going potentially. Maybe we're actually going to see the Turo. Yeah, Turo up the Monkey Dory, bringing up that Zoroark. We're going to start attacking here now, taking some prizes.
We do have the option of re-benching the Monkey Dory as well. I know we kind of lost the dark energy off of it, but it's still a good resource to have. But Marco going to hold it in hand here and going to be able to finally find this knockout with Night Joker copying Virtuous Flame here. And now Xander is going to be technically on the back foot by 1 prize card. But the thing is, Jeremy, I think he might want it to be that way.
Yeah, you have that counter catcher in hand, and Xander was just pulling it to the front. There is an Artisan for the Yveltal. It is so important to have that free retreat with that subjugating chains from the Petrant EX. Being able to get this Mega Kangaskhan EX out of the active spot. But first, going to draw 2 with that run errand ability. Mist Energy is a pretty great find, especially because Marco has a Mega Absol EX of his own.
Going to be, as long as this card is attached to a Pokemon, it provides colorless, but prevent all effects of attacks used by your opponent's Pokemon here, but it is going to be the counter catcher of En's Reshiram up into the active, and that's just the correct play with En's Reshiram having a retreat cost that's pretty high. It's not really going to go anywhere, and Marco doesn't have the Petron at least on to the bench here. I believe he actually has it in hand, or it was in hand at one point, but here we go. It is going to be the Claw of Darkness here, and Xander gets a nice peek at what's going on in the hand, actually going to opt to take the second En's Reshiram out of the deck here.
Oh, thank you, thank you. No, you're so right.
Oh, yep, the damage counter getting removed because it was Adrenaline Brained over, but great sequencing from Xander, being able to Adrenaline Brain, take the KO on the Cleffa after using that counter catcher, just making sure you can utilize all the cards to the best of your ability. And speaking of all the cards to the best of its ability, Sereno getting the double Ends Zoroark along with Fezandipity EX. We're going to draw some cards this turn, Emily.
We're going to see, what is it going to be? 6, 9 at least, right? 2, if I do.
6, 7.
Oh, Jeremy. It is going to be, though, the discard of the Psyduck. Don't need it in this matchup to trade perfectly right into a Monkey Dory Dark Energy if that's the route that Marco wants to go here. But actually trading away the Fezandipity as well, it is a little bit of a liability. Going into that Janine's Secret Art and a little bit of the Yveltal as well here. And it's just to see how exactly Marco is going to be able to recover some of these En's Reshirams here, because there's no Darmanitan inside of the deck. So we need something to copy.
Needing to find one of the 2 copies of Super Rod here just to shuffle back in that Ends Reshiram and get it out with Artisan, but nothing here, just a pass of the turn. This is looking like Xander's able to almost take control here. Granted, if you're attacking into that Ends Zoroark EX, it's going to attack back for a lot of damage.
Yeah, the powerful Rage, the first attack onto the Ends Reshiram, where you're able to do 20 damage for each damage counter onto this Pokemon. So while Xander can absolutely at least get some damage on the board, that's not exactly what you want to do, especially when you're playing a 3-prize Pokemon of Mega Absol EX here. So I'm interested to see the line that he's actually going to take, because he actually can't technically take a knockout this turn. He'll see what we get off of the Pokegear, though.
If you think about it, though, you are going to disrupt Marco's hand. Already struggled to find that Ends Reshiram last turn, so maybe able to strip something like that Iono. You are forcing Marco to just try to trade into the Super Rod, and still going to be kind of likely, but he missed 1 turn already. What's 2 turns?
It's fair, Jeremy, but what I'm kind of worried about here is that we actually don't have a way to bump the Artisan as well. We don't have that Lively Stadium. So while, yes, we can get rid of some, goodies in Marco's hand, if Marco is able to trade into a Super Rod here, that's actually going to be not exactly great here, because we'll at least be able to guarantee something like that Powerful Rage. But we saw the Airy here. We're able to discard 2 item hands, but once again, more information. That's kind of what Xander's deck has been kind of working around, is he just wants to see so much of what Marco is really working with here.
Well, there is that subjugating chains, bringing the Yveltal back to the active. Now we're going to have a Mega Kangaskhan EX run errand, try to find that stadium yet again, potentially. But just the pass of the turn, your opponent's not threatening you, so why threaten your opponent? Now Marco's going to have some chance to use trade yet again. Still needs to find Super Rod, but doesn't have counter catchers to be able to pick apart the bench on Xander's side anymore, thanks to that Eerie.
And Marco is only playing 1 copy of the Binding Mochi, and 2 copies of the Janine here, so it is just going to be a pass over, I believe. Now we're in this weird kind of stalemate part of this set where Xander's now checking how many cards he has left in deck, but the right move is so hard to say, because that Iono, like you were talking about, Jeremy, could lead us into finding that Super Rod. Ooh, okay, Team Rocket's Watchtower in the deck for Marco here, but I don't know what exactly.
You want that Artisan in play, maybe, unless you're just completely switching gears and going for the deck out plan.
Okay, attachment onto the Petron EX. This wouldn't necessarily... This is
the weirdest board game.
Right, but that's what we're playing around, right, Jeremy? We're playing around the fact that if Marco finds the recovery, it's not exactly an ideal situation for Xander here.
This is crazy. This is peak Pokemon, honestly. Just draw, pass.
Draw, pass.
Energy attached for the turn, pass. Draw, pass.
I do enjoy the fact that Marco isn't trading either. I think a lot of the times players see an Zoroark EX and they're like, oh my god, I get to trade, I get to just use all of my trades. And it takes a lot of discipline here to really just kind of sit there and just say, you know what, I'm looking for my 1 exact out here. I'm waiting for the Super Rod. It'll come to me, but it'll come to me before Xander is going to have to choose whether he, Ionos here and finds that Super Rod.
There is the Lively Stadium, so do we just go for it now?
But then what do you take, Jeremy? Do you take the second Artisan there, right?
Well, I think it's what? You have to do a combination of Lively Stadium, Iono, and then subjugating change the Evital to the active, retreat to the Absol, Claw, and hope to hit a Super Rod that was off the Iono maybe? There's a Super Rod off the top of the deck.
And that was what Marco was waiting for here. So it is going to be the 2 ends, Reshiram here, and a Dark Energy as well. Just a couple shortcuts here as we're going to be able to bench the ends Reshiram. And you can see Marco, I think I heard a yay from on stage over there. But I want to see how the game plan is technically going to change now. Are we going to play a little bit more aggressive with the boss's orders here, right onto the Monkey Dory, taking the battery of moving all these damage counters out of play right here, right now?
Well, again, you don't want to, at least from Marco's side of things, put damage on the board with double Monkey Dory because then that turns on Terminal Period from that Mega Absol EX. So really just clearing the support Pokemon on Xander's side of the board. Now, granted, you are down those 2 counter catchers, had to use that boss's orders. So you won't be able to do it for too long, but at least as of right now, you want to force Xander to attack into you.
Lively Stadium going to come down here, and I like the stadium going into the deck that it's up against. But once again, this ends Reshiram is just going to get taken right back into the active. Xander doesn't have too many cards left, Jeremy. And from what I see in the hand, I don't think we have a way of refreshing the hand either for Xander. But it could just be the Mega Absol EX coming into the active thanks to subjugating chains here. I think we're going to get aggressive.
There's at least a Lilies in the hand, I think, for Xander. But there is that Claw of Darkness taking the knockout on that Reshiram and is not going to find anything really useful other than that Artisan, which is a great way to fetch out that other Ends Reshiram in the deck.
Important to note here over on Marco's side as well, 2 copies of the Super Rod, and we've seen 1 being played. So only 1 left in the deck here for Marco. Want to see how exactly, or is this going to be the Super Rod being played now as well? So there it is, last Super Rod here.
Top deck Super Rod yet again.
Love to see it. But I think we've gotten rid of Artisan again, so now we have no reliable way of grabbing the Ends Reshiram out of the deck here.
And I think Xander actually subjugating chains the Absol into the active and took the knockout. That's what he was kind of deliberating on. Just if Marco's not going to place damage on the board, Xander's going to do it himself.
Absolutely. Pheasantipity EX, 3 cards. We need a couple of pieces to work together here. Penny, potentially, but more trade. You get to see a lot of this deck here. Maybe we want to bump the Lively Stadium with something like a Team Rocket's Watchtower, but the Penny just going to actually take Pheasantipity down and out of play here. We'll see as it goes back on over to Xander's turn. Xander, I think, is in a much better spot now.
Yeah, and there is a Lily's Determination in the hand. It's towards the end, past all the Arvins, past the Pennies. So it does have a way to at least shuffle the hand into the deck and not deck out in a couple turns. But here we have that spot yet again where do you attack? That's the thing. The poison damage is going to build up.
I also like, Jeremy, how you were talking about an alternate weird win condition here by using Mega Absol's first attack, this terminal period, going back to the Monkey Dory that we were talking about, taking a knockout there, where if your opponent's Pokemon does have exactly 6 damage counters onto it, it's knocked out. So we wouldn't have to play around the Ends Reshiram attack anymore. But of course, a lot of these players are gravitating towards Claw of Darkness, all the information that you really get from one attack. And it is very, very strong as well here. And we'll see how Marco is going to trade his way out of this one.
Trade, he did first trade in what feels like forever for Marco with these 3 Zoroark in play and just passes the turn. Already has that Ends Reshiram in the hand, but chooses not to bench it down. Ooh. And wow, this is a big Zoroark's machinations. Gonna force Marco to discard down to 3 cards. Already has used both of the Super Rods. So you got to keep that Ends Reshiram. You got 1 more in the deck, but it's going to get discarded this turn, most likely.
Absolutely. And this was a great play from Xander as well. I mean, we're now talking about alternate win conditions with something like a terminal period to knock out this Ends Zoroark EX. Now it's really of who's going to potentially deck out who first, right? And it's using these odd supporter cards like Zoroark's machinations to really kind of get the job done. But now Xander going to look through Marco's discard pile to at least see if he can find a way or try and get an idea of how much recovery has been used.
Again, these Zoroark decks aren't really playing the normal supporters we see for a lot of decks in the format. There's no Lilies in this list for Marco, opting for the 4 Cyrano instead. And because of that, you're also playing less Iono. I think there's, only 3 copies. So depending on how many were actually discarded, I think 2 were discarded, at least with that Machinations right there.
Night Stretcher, and we could get the Pecharunt EX powered up here with its 1 attack irritated outburst here, but I think Xander is forced into using not only Monkey Dory, of course, to bring some damage counters, and then Claw of Darkness.
Oh, no, we're just passing.
Wow, what?
So setting up the terminal period for next turn, just avoiding the possibility of this Mega Absol EX getting knocked out. And if it does, you come up with the Pecharunt EX, take the last knockout you need after that terminal period. This is crazy the way this game 1 has turned out.
I think the word that I want to use, Jeremy, is disciplined from both players. It's
100%.
very, very disciplined. And I know for some players, they might see this as a very slow game, right? But the amount of decisions that have been made, right? Holding on, not attacking all the way, right? So honestly, if Xander has something like a boss's orders, be able to bring that end Zoroark EX back into the active, move the 3 damage counters with Monkey Dory, we will have the perfect math for a terminal period here. It's just a matter of what we want to do. Lily's determination, though, is going to at least refresh Xander's hand here. You got to wonder, Jeremy, I mean, how many cards does Marco realistically have left in play?
Oh, true. I think there's, what, 5 cards in deck, 4 in the hand, and you lost a ton of resources due to that Zoroark last turn. Now, Xander does have his last boss's orders in the prize cards, so he's going to have to just work around this active Zoroark yet again, and I think with the Lilies shuffling the hand in, might have bought himself enough time.
Moving and then just passing once again here for Xander, as Marco going to have to figure out how he finds a way to figure out if it's comfortable or not to bench this Ends Reshiram, and I think we are going to be seeing it. The question is, what else do we do this turn? I mean, he could Iono, he could just try and, once again, copy, and it will be the copying of Virtuous Flame for the 170 here, but...
Oh, no, he already added the poison damage, so yeah. 190 is the correct math after poison. Now Xander has some damage counters to work with. Was going to have 3 damage anyway to move with Adrenabrain, so Marco's basically, okay, I have to attack now.
Monkey Dory moving the 3 damage counters, and there's our goal number of having 6 damage counters on the end Zoroark EX. And now it is going to be Xander using Terminal Period to get to this knockout here. Only 1 prize card away from taking this game number 1, which has been a little bit of a slower game. But as you mentioned a little bit earlier, Jeremy, actually drawing the boss's orders off the prize cards.
And Marco, I think, just drew a very good card in Palpad. We were talking about how he was down those counter catchers from the Eerie earlier on in the game, used the boss's orders aggressively to take the knockouts on at Monkey Dory. Now he's going to be able to shuffle 2 boss's orders back into the deck, and there's just 5 cards. So you have to think with just 1 trade, you're going to find a boss's orders. But here is Iono going to shuffle the hand for Xander back into the bottom of the deck and draw 1 card. Now, ooh. This Hero's Cape is insane.
Yeah, coming in quite literally at the final moment here for Marco. Going to be adding plus 100 onto this end Zoroark EX, now making this Pokemon have 380 hit points here. Both players figuring out the math as well. The draw for turn into what I don't believe was the boss's orders, because Iono was played last turn, sending that boss's orders down into the bottom of the deck here.
There's so much damage on that Mega Absol. the Bravery Charm and the Lively Stadium giving it an extra 80 HP, so 360 health. That means it is, what, 350? So it is going to get knocked out by poison unless Xander uses the Adrenabrain, Subject and chains the Yveltal back into the active. This is definitely an awkward moment here.
And no play feels truly correct here, but one thing's for sure, you can absolutely, essentially for free, right, move this Yveltal up into the active because it does have a free retreat. So I want to see how Xander's going to move around here. From what I'm seeing in the hand, I'm not seeing too many useful cards here, so Xander might just have to pass. There's not even an energy here to keep this end Zoroark in the active, but with a Hero's Cape and now ends Reshiram, kind of safe to start launching attacks back at Xander.
I mean, you have to at least Adrenabrain, right? Not pass the turn.
Interesting here from Xander. Where do you go, though, is the question. Back into Mega Absol. You're right, Jeremy. It is going to be the Adrenabrain, moving 3 damage counters onto the end Zoroark EX here. And then is it just one more Terminal or Claw of Darkness here?
Yeah, I think it was a Claw of Darkness. Marco unable to take 4 prizes before Xander is able to take 1. Has that Petrant EX in the bench with 2 Dark Energies and that Bravery Charm. Able to clean up pretty much anything, even that Zoroark with the Hero's Cape, thanks to just the 200 damage from the Claw of Darkness. What a disciplined game 1, like you said, between both of these players. Like I said, I didn't really know the matchup between both these decks, even though I play a lot of these decks at locals. That is not how I expected it to go.
Well, let's take a look at the replay, because as we've been saying, this match is a little bit more kind of focused than maybe some of the other matches we've seen on stream today here. It was Marco Fuentes versus Xander Bennett here in this game number 1. And you can see immediately with this Claw of Darkness kind of getting hold. And we figured out what Xander's win condition was throughout the game, which was getting rid of not only the way that end Zoroark EX attacks, right, but the way that we recover that attacker as well. Artisan, Super Rod as well. So great math here from Xander Bennett as well, showing that not only Claw of Darkness is a great attack, but also Terminal Period is a great way that you can use your monkey math, right, with Monkey Dory to get the job done.
Came down to literally the last cards, basically, for both of these players. And Marco, finding the Hero's Cape, just unfortunately was not really able to close that out. And now potentially going second here to get rid of that Turbo Energize play from Xander's deck. Does start things off with a run errand with that Mega Kangaskhan EX in the active spot, drawing 2 cards, but just passes the turn. No trolley for Xander.
But a buddy Poffin for Marco, Jeremy, and that's exactly what he wants to see here. Now, during this deck search, we are going to be taking a quick little look at the prizes as well. And from what I can see on my screen, even just 1 copy of Artisan being in the prizes is not exactly ideal here. Now, Xander Bennett has prized a lot of Dark Energy for his deck. I mean, it's playing 7, so prizing 3 doesn't exactly feel too good. Now, granted, we do have access to this Technical Machine Turbo Energize here. We only have 1 copy of Energy Switch, so we have to be a little bit careful of where we're placing our energy.
I mean, honestly, Xander's playing 7 Dark Energy, prized 3 of them. Marco's playing 6 Dark Energy, prized 2 of them. Both these players only have 4 available to really play around with. And Xander's main thing is Turbo Energize, power up an Absol, but then you're really going to just be lacking on energy for your Monkey Dories or even your Yveltal for clutch.
Xander showing off, though, the ideal turn 2 for this Mega Kangaskhan deck, which is finding your Precious Trolley immediately off of the Arven and finding that complete and full setup that we like to see here. Has the Technical Machine Turbo Energize in hand. And speaking of the hand, a couple of things to note about in the hand as well. Draws into the Bravery Charm, too, here for that Mega Absol, and it will be the Technical Machine Turbo Energize return. We also do have an attach return as well, but I think this might be that wake up that it's not going to be too crazy here, but has to be very careful right now. The Earthen Vessel, Jeremy, like you talked about, both players only having 4 energy available to them.
It's so awkward when you are just grabbing 1 off that Earthen Vessel, but it's because you have that Turbo Energize. So now attaching to the Absol and the Monkey Dory most likely has the other energy in hand, so you can go ahead and try and attack next turn. And was that a top deck Serrano from Marco, or just opted not to use it, fearing maybe another Iono, those Zoroarks back to the bottom?
This is exactly what we want to see, right? We finally have our engine up and running. Now, granted, we don't see that ends Reshiram just yet. We know it is going to come down the line. There was also a 2nd copy of Cyrano as well to guarantee. Here comes the trade, 2 cards. There's the Artisan as well here, and it's a Rosix for later too, Jeremy. So now we're going to see a lot more trading going on here. There's the 3rd one, and we're going to trade away the Yveltal here. Janine's Secret Art as well, another tool that we can use, but there's that energy that we can also use for attach for turn. And now it is all up to Marco. Do we get a little bit aggressive now? Do we use the Hero's Cape now?
The energy was pretty great to draw. I mean, you do have access to attack, but not playing the Artisan down. You don't want to put damage on the board just because those Monkey Dories. Terminal Period is such a powerful attack in this matchup. Pokegear from Xander. There's Iono. Lilies. I like drawing 8 cards.
Drawing 8 cards is great, but especially when Marco is playing so reserved with his hand, and if Xander were to do something like a Claw of Darkness here, he would see that Marco has several outs to Reshiram, not only having it just in hand, but also having an Artisan in hand as well here. So the priorities are going to have to be a little bit mixed. I'm not quite sure what Xander wants to do here, but is going to accidentally put the Lily's Determination along with the Pokegear inside of the discard. We're going to be able to get it back out, but that's the last Dark Energy in the deck, Jeremy. This is looking a little bit awkward.
Yeah, gonna need to start drawing some prize cards to power up something like another Monkey Dory. Granted, does have access to 1 energy switch, so can maybe energy attach and then energy switch a Dark over to someone else. But there is the boss's orders in combination with the ends Reshiram to take the knockout on the Monkey Dory with the Dark Energy. And Marco is really just sticking to the same game plan of, I am not going to leave any damage on your side of the field. I'm going to do my best to just play as patiently as possible, take the avenues where you can.
We saw this exact play in game number 1 as well. We're essentially taking the battery out of the deck, saying Monkey Dory and the Dark Energy, right, essentially out of play completely here. So now Mega Kangaskhan, but using the Night Stretcher here to get the Dark Energy back. And I think Xander at this point, right, can use something like the Counter Catcher here to bring forward the ends Reshiram, maybe stick in the active at this point. I'm not quite sure if we want to play something like an Iono here, but maybe we can just move forward our Mega Absol. We understand that we're about to take this knockout, and now Xander has to decide where the priority lies here in the hand. It has to be the Artisan to, reestablish an attacker.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Marco does have access to 3 trades this time, whereas last game, those Zoroark were a little harder to come by, but is still having that Claw of Darkness available to him. And Arven here, maybe finding something like that energy switch just in case it's needed. You can also thin out another Bravery Charm or Energize.
I think for thinning purpose, A-okay with me here. But
yeah, no basic energy in the deck. You don't need turbo energy.
I mean, listen, it's just another card that you can have, and if you choose to play Iono, it just safely goes away from the hand here. But tons of options that Xander has in, but it will be the Claw of Darkness here. Actually choosing to get rid of the Zoroark's Machinations here, having access to Artisan once again, and now it is going to be Xander taking his first prize card, but it's Mega Absol EX, Jeremy. It's not even a Dark Energy.
What, have a 50% chance to grab a dark energy?
It's true. Those odds, those odds are actually pretty good. Unfortunate to see here.
Now Artisan is going to grab that Ends Reshiram, and we do see a boss's orders in hand for Marco. So can take out that Monkey Dory that was just powered up yet again, and like you were saying, just taking out the cogs of the machine that this Mega Toolbox has.
And now that Xander doesn't have Monkey Dory available, the question is, what do you do now, right? What attacker are we really forcing the issue with? We could start doing something along the lines of potentially a clutch play if we really want to, but energy switch possibly from the Mega Absol to the Yveltal here, but we have a ton of supporters in hand. I mean, Xander has the option to, potentially bump this Artisan with Lively Stadium, maybe use an Iono, but I mean, with 3 and Zoroark set up here, Marco can essentially draw back into what he really needs here.
Xander is using these counter catchers very effectively for this game too. Going down in prize cards that early, there was no Cleffa on Marco's side of the board for you to kind of take advantage of. So bringing up these Ends Reshiram, that's what your goal is to try to do. We saw it worked in game 1, but now there is no threat of Monkey Dory on the bench. Do we start seeing Marco get a little bit aggressive?
I would like to see it at this point, right? You're already down a game, and this set has been going on for quite some time. We're about to pass the 10-minute mark, actually. I'm really surprised by the choice of letting Marco continue to hold Pheasantipity here. It is, I mean, a liability in itself. If Xander is able to reestablish Monkey Dory here, he would be able to use Adrenabrain to bring that 1 damage counter over to Pheasantipity and then potentially find a Claw of Darkness onto that Pokemon to find another 2 prizes here. But I'm very surprised, but here comes the trades.
Iono from Marco is unfortunately going to put that fresh Dark Energy to the bottom of the deck, but it does look like Xander drew into Mist Energy and Earthen Vessel, so at least a couple energy to work with for next turn, but we're still missing that Monkey Dory. I think there's 2 in the discard, so you have 1 left with that Artisan. You're down a Night Stretcher, only have 1 left with that. That's your only Pokemon or energy recovery for the rest of the game.
Finds the Pal Pad as well. I feel like a lot of players have not been using Pal Pad recently. I feel like that's a card that we just haven't seen as much in a couple of lists, but the attach return onto Zoroark here with the Hero's Cape. We're still working on getting all of our attackers set up kind of around the board. I like the Air Balloon as well, just getting kind of the cards that could be kind of seen clogging the hand just out onto the board as quickly as possible here. Now back on over to Xander.
Yeah, unfortunately, Marco unable to find a Super Rod to get an attack off in the turn where you kind of are forced to really take advantage of this board. Now Xander is going to be able to set up another Monkey Dory yet again.
The question is, does Xander, if he has the opportunity to go a little aggressive, once again, Xander just keeps prizing these boss's orders when he could potentially find a great line of using Adrenabrain to move that singular damage counter onto the Pheasantipity, but going for potentially the same play with a Pokegear.
Can find a boss off the top 7.
I see an double Arven here. Not exactly what you want to see. The prize cards are even as well, Jeremy, so even something like Counter Catcher's not actually going to do the work for you.
Yeah, Xander will already use both Counter Catchers anyway, but unable to find a boss's orders off that Pokegear, or really just a supporter that will do something. I mean, the hand is Zoroark Machinations and an Arven. Most of your good items are out of the deck, and most of your tools are done as well. You're not going to be able to turbo energize anything in this.
The question is, and as we've been bringing it back to the central point, do you use Claw of Darkness, not knowing for sure if Marco has a way of recovering here, but Pecharunt EX once again using Subjugating Chains to bring this Yveltal into the active and using the Free Retreat to bring Mega Kangaskhan EX into the front spotlight here, using Run Errand to draw a couple more cards. The question is, what are we realistically looking for?
Not Enhanced Hammer. I'm going to tell you that.
Not applicable here, but definitely another card. But Double Mist Energy Mega Kangaskhan is definitely something to see here.
I mean, it still opens up a play of you can guarantee the Pheasantipity knockout with a Adrenabrain moving the 10 damage over and then just dealing 200 even if you flip tails. But you got to try to do something with just the lack of versatility that you have in attackers with the way the prize cards have worked out for Xander.
The 1 copy of Penny is inside of Marco's hand here. Now, using the Iono, but there could have been a line, Jeremy, where we actually pennied the Pheasantipity EX out of play here, but it will be Iono for both players. Will be 4 more cards, and now Marco here has to decide. And I believe that's just another pass over and over.
Well, again, you're not able to find Super Rod, so no way to put the Ends Reshiram back into the deck. Now, Xander does have his own copy of Penny, along with that boss's orders found off the Iono Dark Energy. I mean, I always like run errand first, draw some cards, then figure it out.
It's that keyword sequencing, right? Like, what is your best line going forward so you can see all of the cards that you have before you make a decision that feels permanent for that turn. Interestingly enough, drew into a couple of the pieces of the boss's orders, but has to find a way, could use the subjugating chain.
I think has it now, yeah.
Yeah, has it now, right? To bring forward the Mega Absol EX, finding the boss's orders onto the Pheasantipity, using a Dreaded Brain to move the 1 damage counter over. And a little bit of information here for Xander Bennett, 2 prize cards away from taking the set in what has been another, once again, disciplined game.
I am so in love with the combination of Petrant EX and Yveltal and Monkey Dory. Being able to poison yourself and use that damage later on in the game to take these knockouts cleanly is so fun. Now, multiple trades from Marco's side of things. We finally have that Super Rod has been an item card that has been hiding for pretty much this entire game for Marco. Finally able to shuffle in both of those Ends Reshiram and Monkey Dory. Going to fetch that right away with that Artisan.
And that was the thing with Xander. I believe there was a Lively Stadium available, but choosing not to play it here, as now that Zoroark is going to have an air balloon, so he can retreat into something a little bit bigger with the Zoroark, with something like the Hero's Cape as well. But another Iono here from Marco, going to take Xander down only to 2 cards here. See how the play is going to turn out.
Yeah, Xander couldn't actually play the Lively Stadium just because he had perfect math on that Pheasantipity as knockout.
Yep, absolutely.
So here we're going to see Marco retreat with that air balloon to that Zoroark with the Hero's Cape. And this is Marco's shot to try and even up this match and come out of this with a tie, because there's 5 minutes left in this round, Emily. I don't know if we're going to even finish this game, let alone a game 2 or game 3.
I agree with that here, Jeremy. Have to see how exactly the line plays out.
Could just attack with Mega Kangaskhan, flip a bunch of heads.
Surely
how much HP does Zoroark have? 380 right now?
I mean, we saw it a little bit earlier, right?
Yeah.
You just keep flipping heads. You just got to do what you need to do here. Now, Xander can absolutely think about all of his options here. Considering benching the Pheasantipity, it is a little bit of a liability. Maybe run errand first, I was about to say. Kind of gauge all of our options. Another Iono as well. I mean, Jeremy, you're talking about the time here. It is very, a very possible strategy here to just Iono and kind of play a little bit more defense. And Xander's saying to himself, I'll just win the game 1-0 here, but flip the script, finding a couple of more draw supporters here. Maybe they Eerie this turn, get a little bit of information on what's going on in Marco's hand to kind of gauge which attacker or which play is the right idea going into, the final couple turns in the game.
Penny as well. I don't know how many cards are in Marco's hand, but I think we're just going to see... this is such a tough decision, but Xander has all the power here, right? Winning game 1 in these kind of matches where every play is so crucial for the long haul, right? Like the 10 damage that was left on that Mega Absol EX, 2 turns later, was able to help Xander take the knockout on that Pheasantipity. It really just depends on your plays from previous turns. We're going to pick up that Mega Absol EX with the energy. Now Xander has plenty of energy to work with. Maybe we're just going to try to clutch and close this game out that way.
That's definitely a strategy that we can work with here, but instead actually going to attach onto the Petrant EX here, move the Pheasantipity EX into the active.
Oh yeah, force feed Marco these 2 prizes so your Petrant EX can take a knockout on basically anything.
Pass back on over to Marco here. Seems to have a plan, moving a little bit quickly here. Can definitely trade away this Professor Turo scenario. Has to take these 3 prize cards.
Boss's orders is great.
Yeah, I was about to say, in essentially 2 minutes, finds the boss's orders. Maybe take something like the Yveltal and then line it up for 2 prize next turn, or maybe try and go for the Petrant EX and then go down to 1 prize card with that Binding Mochi.
We're bringing up that Mega Kangaskhan EX. Just going to punch it for 170. And 2 minutes left on the clock, Emily. It's going to come down to these last 2 turns anyway, so both of these players are going to have to try to figure it out here.
I think Xander's best play, Jeremy, is to just completely play defense, right? Finding a way to Bravery Charm this Mega Kangaskhan, get it out of the active, maybe even trying to do something along the lines of a clutch potentially, too. All we know is that Mega Kangaskhan, not exactly you feel too comfortable with a 3 prize Pokemon already with some damage on it. So it's really kind of about what do we want to stick into the active boss's orders here. And it feels like the only option is the Monkey Dory, interestingly enough. Going to be the poison damage and the attach for turn, and finding clutch here as we're going down into what this match has become last minute. But my goodness, Marco having it in hand, showing Xander, I got it. Now, if anything, Jeremy, I think this leads us straight into a tie.
Yeah, these players are going to take a minute to shuffle their decks, let alone play a full game of Pokemon. And they're circling the match, slip, tie. And it really just came down to can Xander find another penny to pick up that Mega Kangaskhan and burn through those Pokegears early, and Run Errand was not able to find anything off the top of the deck. And we saw Marco play that beautifully. Just unfortunately had a slower start in Game 1, and Game 2 was able to clutch it up and tie it up and walk away at 5-0-3 for the last round of Phase 1.
There's a lot to be said about that last match, and I think the word of the match that we were talking about was really discipline, right? Making sure, and resource management, going down to like your very Pokemon TCG basics of making, and we saw it in game number 1, right? Counting how many recovery options were used. Taking a quick picture as we're gonna head into the replay here.
Now this was a great back and forth Game 1. Xander was able to use Monkey Dory to